Hi, my name is Stephanie, and today I want to talk to you about the executive function inhibition. This is basically the opposite of the last executive function I went over on this channel, which was initiation. Really quickly, I would like to thank my patrons and viewers for both suggesting and voting on this particular topic. And really quickly, I would like to shout out my merch. Autism isn't a dirty word, and you can get that design and others at my merch shop. The link is in the description. Now, before I get further into it, I just want to explain that anyone can have issues with executive functioning. One source suggests that about half the population has some sort of issue with some of their executive functions. And of course, executive functioning issues are very common in ADHD and autism. You can have one without the other. Doesn't mean that if you have executive functioning issues that you have ADHD or you have autism, and vice versa. Much of the information in today's video is going to be coming from an article by Adele Diamond on executive functioning. As always, that information reference link will be in the description box for you to check out. In this article, inhibitory control is defined as being able to control one's attention, behavior, thoughts, and/or emotions to override a strong internal predisposition or external lure, and instead do what's more appropriate or needed. So inhibitory control of attention helps us to selectively attend on the correct thing or the thing that we want to focus on at the moment. This is an example that I commonly hear autistics struggle with, which is like trying to hear the person talking in front of you, but accidentally just following along with the conversation of someone else over here. And you can't filter these people out, and so your attention is on this conversation and you're trying to engage with the conversation that's supposed to be happening between you and this other person, but they're talking and all you can hear is this back and forth. That is an issue with your inhibition and your control of selective attention. Now, this doesn't just apply to attending outward things. This inhibitory control can also deal with your internal thoughts. So being able to rein in your thought pattern or what you're thinking about and not go down all these rabbit trails and all these other things and continue going when you should be coming back to that topic or that conversation or whatever that is you're supposed to be focusing on outwardly and internally. Of course, self-control is considered a part of inhibitory control. I think self-control is a pretty well understood concept. This can help you from not eating that other piece of candy or stealing a toy or reflexively hitting someone for doing something you didn't like or that was, you know, uncomfortable. Personal thought here. This may be why some people find autistic children more difficult to handle, because part of autism is a different kind of timeline for development. And so if an autistic child already is going to have some deficits in inhibition and they're maybe not developing at the same rate as their typically developing peers, they may have more trouble not stealing someone's toy or hitting someone if they do something, or stealing their snack or their drink or something like that, where maybe the caregiver doesn't expect that behavior to happen that often at that age range. That's just a personal thought. And I think that this might kind of feed into that thought and stereotype that autistic people are just really selfish, especially autistic children. I've seen that as a description where because they don't like attend to other people the way that people feel like they should, that they're just selfish and in their own world and don't care about anybody else, which is yeah, not a great stereotype. So inhibitory control has to also do with being able to like wait your turn or delay gratification, controlling your emotions, not blurting out something before thinking it through, or not jumping to a conclusion like the first conclusion you come to in a situation, as well as being able to stay on task. Now, I can attest to the issue of like blurting things out, because when something like enters my mind, it just becomes like everything. And if I find it interesting and I wanted to share it, or it's important for some reason in my world, it's really hard to wait my turn and not just interrupt. And sometimes it comes out of my mouth without my permission. Sometimes my brain and my mouth connect in ways they shouldn't. So that is an issue with inhibition. I tend to be a person who likes to really think through things before speaking, but when it's not something that like really matters, a lot of the time it's just really hard for me to keep it to myself and wait my turn. And it feels like if I don't say it right now, it's going to leave and then I won't be able to say it, or that like the moment will pass, even though a lot of the times it would be just fine to wait till later. And if I think of it later, a lot of times it doesn't feel as important as it did in that moment for whatever reason. It's pretty weird. And while I'm trying to keep my mouth from blurting out things out of turn, a lot of times there are outward manifestations of this happening. So like I'll like bubble mouth, which I've been told is not flattering, so there you go. And I'll bounce or maybe flail around some because I'm having such a hard time not saying the thing, but it's in there, it's in my brain, and I just need to say it. Inhibition also has a lot to do with suppressing irrelevant information and focusing on relevant information, which may be why a lot of times autistics have difficulty taking notes, because we aren't really good at pulling out, at least in the moment, the information that's important from what's being said to be able to like just write that down. We tend to want to like write word for word what was said because we are having trouble taking what's important from the information being presented to us, and that's an inhibition issue as well. Some also suggest that special interest or deep dives can be considered an issue with inhibition, which I can pretty much agree on, because technically a well-structured day doesn't include you going on a rabbit hole for 8 hours and not eating and forgetting that you need to go to the bathroom and not doing the things you're supposed to do. So you're kind of lacking that self-control to like come off of the thing, and it's really hard because it's like it becomes your world, it becomes everything you're thinking about, and you're seeing all the things and you just got to get there. And so your inhibition is lacking to say, okay, now we need to, you know, we need to stop, we need to cut off, we can take a break. Those sorts of things are difficult. So now that we understand what a deficiency in inhibition looks like, how can we help it? So it looks like there are some options for children, especially like Montessori learning, specifically for ages 3 to 6, and apparently not outside that range. I'm not sure on all the reasons why it's that specific, but if you check out the resource, it will kind of lead you on the trail if you want to figure out some of that stuff for yourself. Some other things that I saw mentioned to kind of help with inhibition and executive functions overall, and this is something you're going to see a lot of times, that executive functions a lot of times are very intertwined and they work together a lot. So a lot of times something might not be directed specifically at what you're wanting to improve, but it might improve a variety of executive functions. So it might help that one particular thing that you're having an issue with. But some things I found mentioned a lot were task switching, which I'm not 100% what that means, because I know I'm not great at task switching. I don't know if that's like assistance in switching tasks and then starting kind of getting used to like being able to switch. I don't know, that's something you might want to look into. And specifically traditional, not modern, martial arts apparently are tied to really helping executive function and specifically inhibition. Apparently there's something about the character building portion mixed with physical activity and mindfulness that helps, apparently. Music is supposed to be helpful for all of your executive functions, including inhibition, which I find wonderful because I really like music. Including some video gaming can be helpful for inhibition, as long as, of course, it's not taking up your whole entire day and life and you're not using it as something that you're lacking inhibition to be able to stop and do something else and have a well-rounded day. Apparently getting more sleep, of course, can help inhibition. There was a study that extending the amount of sleep that some children got helped improve inhibition for them about 13%. So, I mean, that's something. Honestly, that's about all I could get straight answer-wise regarding what would help improve specifically inhibition when it came to executive functioning. I will link a resource from Harvard that is supposed to be able to target different executive functions for different age groups, so they're like different activities or whatever. I'll link that in the description box if you want to check that out. And again, a lot of times different activities can help, like groupings of executive functions, because they are pretty interconnected. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, informational, etc., go ahead and hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you have issues with inhibition, if you found anything to be helpful, and if you have any resources to help us work on inhibition, let everybody know in the comments below. If you want to hear more autism related content from me, you can hit that subscribe button. I upload to this channel every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Standard to the best of my ability. I hope that you're having a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you in my next video.